Hello, politically savvy and survival-minded Americans. In this video, I will talk about the new executive order that President Trump has just enacted to help prevent and prepare for a potential electromagnetic pulse, more commonly known as an EMP attack. To quote investors.com, if you're like most people, you probably don't know what an electromagnetic pulse weapon is. Maybe you've never heard of one, and maybe you don't care, but you really should. Destruction of our electrical grid can unfold in one of two ways. Solar flare from the sun or a detonated nuclear weapon at high altitude, which would disable or wipe out a large part of our electrical grid. To wipe out a majority of the United States power grid, it is estimated it would take 6 nuclear EMP bombs. It can also fry up to 3 feet of electrical grid underground. We rely on our electrical grid for our health and our livelihood. The country's military and defense systems, food production and distribution, internet and major communications, power to essential medical equipment in hospitals, and stock exchange are some of the most critical things that would be impacted. President Trump, in the first ever, and being the first ever, to enact an EMP policy, has said that most federal agencies have been ordered to make this a priority and back up current systems with newer EMP-resistant systems. According to the businessinsider.com, Trump instructed federal agencies to identify EMP threats to vital U.S. systems and determine ways to guard against them. Bloomberg first reported, a potentially harmful EMP event can be caused by a natural occurrence or the detonation of a nuclear weapon in the atmosphere. An EMP attack against the United States reportedly drove President Trump to enact the first ever EMP executive order. Multiple federal agencies, as well as the White House National Security Council, have been instructed to make this a priority. In 2017, Trump became the first president to see the need to protect the U.S. electrical grid, which is critical for the preservation of the citizens of the U.S. and to keep them safe and productive. In a White House press briefing, Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, "The vulnerability of U.S. critical infrastructure to cyber, physical, and electromagnetic attacks means that adversaries could disrupt military command and control, banking and financial operations, the electrical grid, and means of communication." It's about time we talk about how an EMP attack could impact you. Here are some of the ways askaprepper.com says we can prepare. If that happens, that we're attacked before our federal and countrywide preparations are completed, here is the list. At the top of this list, storing 90 days of water, preferably potable, or at least have a portable water filtration system handy. 90 days of food at a minimum, but a 1-year supply is ideal. It is suggested having gold and silver handy for monetary exchange, but you cannot eat gold and silver, so in my opinion, these should be a secondary priority to food and water. Medical supplies, be sure you have a sufficient first aid kit and a 90-day supply of medicines you may be critically dependent upon. Some of the other things recommended are solar panels, which can suffer damage from an EMP but can still be functional if you keep spare parts in an EMP-resistant Faraday case. Simple electronic devices, modern and vintage, such as radios, appliances, power tools, wind generators. Remember that vacuum tube devices will not be impacted by an EMP. Appliances attached to a power grid, however, will likely get fried during an EMP attack. Batteries and battery-operated electronics, cell phones would likely survive an attack as long as they're not connected to a charger and are within a substantial shelter structure such as a concrete building. Some sort of transportation. Be aware that cars that rely on microprocessors will be disabled by an EMP. Cars made 2002 and older will likely sustain minimal effect from an EMP and will remain functional. In the meantime, it might be a good time to pump up the tires on your bike. To the skeptics and unbelievers that this is merely fear-mongering, I will present information that substantiates these claims. Investors.com states that there are a number of countries that aren't always friendly with the U.S. and are actively developing EMP weapons, including Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China. China in particular is a concern given its fast-rising defense spending and its clear intention of becoming the dominant superpower. That comes from recent Defense Department intelligence assessments and in particular a report delivered to a special congressional committee set up to investigate the threat EMPs and cyber attacks pose. The threat is not theoretical. It is not exaggerated. An EMP can actually shut down America. Additionally, they state that as much as 90% of Americans could be killed within a year and a result of an EMP's attack. It wouldn't happen by the explosion, but rather the hunger, disease, outbreaks, a lack of medicine and care, civil violence, a shortage of potable water, and the breakdown of law and order. It would take months, if not years, to recover from such an attack. I know we already covered this, but I want to emphasize that preparing from a potential disaster is something everyone should do. Please ask yourself, what do I have to lose if I do prepare versus what do I have to lose if I don't? In my opinion, there is one potential benefit to losing power. The misrepresentation of the media would be shut down. There are those who believe the EMP threat is a conspiracy. Jeffrey Lewis, a renowned nuclear expert, wrote that it seemed like the sort of overcomplicated plot dreamed up by a James Bond villain, one that only works in movies, bad movies. The future belongs to those who prepare today. You might think this would be called a leaf because of the way it looks, but it's not the same. It's fake. It's not real. It's a counterfeit to reality. Don't be deceived. Seek reality. It's not perfect or ideal, but it's the real deal. Don't leave this subject unattended. God bless America. God bless you, and thank you.